Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you back to another episode of our For the Health of It. Today, we're back again with Dr. Laverne Bruce, filled with knowledge, one of our blessed members here at the Metropolitan Seventh-day Adventist Church. And today, we are talking about sickle cell disease. And so, Dr. Bruce, welcome again. Thank you for sharing your time with us. Can you just talk to us a bit and explain what is sickle cell disease, first of all?
Dr. Kinlock, thank you so very much for giving me the opportunity to share this information and for spending these few minutes with you discussing it. Sickle cell disease, as we know, is a problem that is very common, and especially in the African American community. Actually, should really be called sickle cell anemia because it is a type of blood disorder which is inherited from parents, and it is a genetic abnormality of the red blood cells. Red blood cells, as we know, are extremely important for carrying oxygen around the body to the various tissues. In sickle cell anemia, there is a genetic abnormality where the person has to have the defect in the gene coming from both parents in order to have sickle cell anemia versus sickle cell trait, where if you have the defect from one parent, you only have the trait. So people with sickle cell anemia have this disorder where under stressful conditions, their red blood cells, which are normally like a plate that carry hemoglobin and oxygen to the tissues, become like a sickle, so that the ability for these cells to carry oxygen is very diminished.
Right.
That leads to problems like difficulties with oxygenation. They can have difficulties with destruction of tissues. They have severe pain because there's not enough oxygen getting to the tissues. They can even have strokes.
Right.
And of course, many of them have a shortened lifespan.
Yeah, as you mentioned, so many in the Black community, African American community, are impacted by sickle cell. And as a pastor, of course, I know so many, and pastored so many members who have had this and have this, and the pain is real, the discomfort is real.
Absolutely.
So, can you talk to us, doctor? What about some of the treatments? What are the usual treatments for sickle cell?
Well, some of the main treatments, of course, are actually non-medical. So patients with sickle cell disease need to remain very well hydrated so that their cells don't sickle. They need to stay warm. They need to diminish the amount of stress in their life. They need to make sure that they're well oxygenated.
Yeah.
And those are some of the major issues that they can start with. And then there are medications that help improve oxygen delivery. And then, of course, there are pain medications which are delivered when a patient with sickle cell has what's called a crisis, which is when something has happened, that there's an increased amount of sickling and a decreased amount of oxygen being delivered to the tissues. So, for example, the bones may hurt a lot because there's not enough oxygen being delivered.
Okay. What are the exciting new developments with sickle cell disease? There's some new information that's out there. Could you share that with us?
Absolutely. This is so incredibly exciting. For the longest while, there's been no cure for sickle cell disease. It's just been a disease that was managed. And of course, many brilliant people have a shortened lifespan because of it. The new development is a genetic manipulation. What happens is that the person who has sickle cell has their natural bone marrow, which is where blood is made. Their natural bone marrow is destroyed by radiation. But before this is done, their own blood cells are harvested. And there is a genetic manipulation which removes the old sickle cell gene and places a normal hemoglobin gene. And then this blood is given back to the person to repopulate the bone marrow, so that essentially a person with sickle cell disease can now be cured. And it's absolutely amazing.
Wow.
There are at least 24 patients who've had this done at a clinic in, I think it's South Carolina, I'm not 100% sure, but it is a new treatment based on these new techniques of genetic manipulation.
Wow.
And it's extremely exciting.
Wow. That's quite exciting. And anticipate, the success of that. Again, as a pastor, there are many that I've pastored over the years that, are afflicted with sickle cell disease. Unfortunately, I just lost a good friend of mine a few weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, to sickle cell. So it's a real pain that we experience in our community. Unfortunately, just the amount of funds, dedicated towards research for sickle cell, of course, has not been comparable to the amount of funds that have been allocated towards other diseases that afflict other communities. So glad to hear these exciting new developments that hold promise for those in our Black communities. Dr. Bruce, thank you so much for sharing this very exciting information. And I pray that there's someone that is out there, if you have a loved one or you yourself or you know someone that may have sickle cell disease, we encourage you to please share this information. Please share this with them. Dr. Bruce, is there any place that they can go to find more details of what you just shared?
Well, many people who have sickle cell problems are already in the medical system because these problems manifest from a very young age. So I would encourage them to discuss with their physicians what these new developments are, and also to start doing your own research. There's a lot of information available.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Bruce. And thank you, everyone, for joining us for another segment For the Health of It. We pray that you were blessed. If you like this, please hit like, please share this with someone. And we pray that this will be a blessing to someone else's life. God bless you, everybody. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.